Hi, friends. So today we're going to talk about abundance because I've been talking about abundance for a little bit, but I kind of want to go into it more in depth into some things that have been brought to my attention or things that I have realized as I've been posting the last couple days about abundance. So here we go. So I recently posted about abundance actions and basically how part of abundance is taking action. So that's an important part about manifesting abundance, about being in alignment with abundance, about being in the flow of abundance. And so, like I mentioned in my last video and also my last post, is abundance is basically the belief, the knowing, the trust that I am enough, I have enough, I trust and believe that there will be enough. And then a scarcity mindset, which would be the opposite of that, is the idea that I don't know if I'm enough, I don't feel I'm enough, I don't trust I'm enough, I don't know if there will be enough, I don't know, I don't feel like there's enough to go around. I don't feel like there's enough to share, and so therefore I need to hold on to my resources. I need to conserve or not really striving for more because I don't trust that there will be more if I get there. So that's kind of the scarcity versus the abundance mindset. So scarcity and abundance. And there's a few things that I want to say about that. I'm looking at my notes, my Lisa Frank notes. And so the first thing is that I want to bring up a point that a friend brought up to me, a friend and coach, about fear. And so it's such a good point, and I will tend to gloss over this just because to me it's common knowledge. It's such a deep part of my work and my practice, so I tend to not think about it, but it is something that needs to be mentioned, and it's not mentioned enough in mainstream. And so that's sort of the problem is if you have fear, if you're in a trauma state, if you feel like you're in a place that you're too afraid, you have too much fear, it will be very difficult to trick your mind or suddenly feel abundant or feel like you're operating in abundance. Like that's probably almost impossible. Because abundance kind of, you need to be in more of a, you need to be able to receive. And in a trauma state, we're usually not able to receive because we're so in like a defensive or a protective mode. When you're in a trauma state, you're basically preparing yourself for the next shoe to drop. You're preparing yourself for action. You're in more of a high adrenaline state and also operating from a place of wounds, which usually means we're back to in that defense mode. And so obviously in that defense mode, if you're imagine yourself covered in shield and like ready to fight, like in your fight guard, you're not in an open place to receive. Like, does this look like you're ready to receive versus like, like allowing and allowing and in and out, allowing the in and out flow. And so when you're in an abundant state, it's more about allowing. It's more about you're not being defensive. You're allowing the flow of input and allowing the flow of output. Because why have financial abundance for this example? Why have financial abundance if you're not allowing for an outflow of things you enjoy? Like if you're not allowing an outflow of buying that bike that you're wanting desperately, or allowing the outflow of your art supplies so you can do your art projects that feeds your soul, or whatever, whatever it is, like, or that new coffee maker because you want to make new coffee, or whatever, you know what I mean? Whatever your project or your desires or that longing in your heart, like why have material abundance if you're not going to enjoy it? Abundance is knowing that there's enough, and also that means allowing for leisure time, allowing for rest, allowing for fun. I want to go back to the fear. And so, as I mentioned, when we have this fear, this blocks this flow state, this flow of abundance, because abundance is flow. Like I said, if scarcity mindset is this on your defense, on your guard, flow is more like this, where your hands are open to receive, people can put stuff in, and your hands are open to give out. And so abundance is much more about the in and out, and scarcity is more about the conservation, because you don't know what will come next. You don't know if there will be more, so you feel like you have to conserve. And this is the thing, is the scarcity mindset is so learned. It's so ingrained in our culture. It's so ingrained in our culture. There's very few people that were not raised with a scarcity mindset, unless you were born into a very affluent family, or somebody that was very self-aware and hardworking and evolved. All of us were raised with a scarcity mindset for the most part, especially in America, or probably any third world country as well. And so what that feeds into is, for example, when your parents told you to pick the safe job over the job of your dreams because it was more financially secure, you were guaranteed more money. That's a scarcity mindset, because you don't trust that there will be any. And so a lot of people push for, like, you can manifest anything, and you absolutely can. But until you clear out those shadows, those blocks of fear, until you clear out those wounds that are still within you from your experiences of your early life, from your upbringing, from the beliefs that were given to you, until you can clear that, you will just be manifesting more of what your experiences were. And so you can manifest whatever you want 100%, but until you have control, until you've mastered yourself, until you have mastered your thoughts, your beliefs, and your feelings, until you've mastered your internal landscape, your external landscape will look like whatever this is. So the law of attraction is like, you think about something and you can pull it in, right? Like frequencies like match frequency. All this is true. There's two major missing components in the law of attraction, and one is that there's no action, there's no co-creation. Most traditional, or like the traditional teachings of law of attraction, when it became mainstream, like The Secret, I didn't read The Secret, but I know that there's very little text, very little information, very little emphasis, let's say, on your co-creation, which is the action. And so the example I like to use is, like, you can have your dream job, but if you don't put your maximum effort, if you don't put your best effort to create that resume and then to apply for the job, you can't. Like, how is it supposed to get to you? You're not making the road for your job to reach you. Like, it doesn't work that way. So if you don't take the action to co-create, the law of attraction doesn't really work that way. You're without the abundance minded actions of doing the steps that are necessary to get to that place, you're manifesting or creating a life around scarcity, because not taking those actions would be fear-based. Most likely, I mean, not for everybody. Maybe laziness tends to be fear-based, though. It usually tends to be a cover for fear. Procrastination also, and that's because we're being lazy, or we're procrastinating because we're afraid of the end result. We're afraid that maybe we're not good enough, that we can't get it. We're afraid that we might fail. We're afraid of what if it doesn't work, of what if I can't do it, and all these things. And so the laziness and the procrastination is a way to protect us from failure, basically. So if, for example, just for the job example, because that's what we're using. So let's say out of fear, you don't put together your resume, you don't put together the application, and you don't get your dream job because you didn't build the road with those actions for that job to actually reach you, for that energy to meet you in time and space, basically. But here's the thing. The act of laziness, of procrastination, the choice, because it is a choice, the choice of not putting your application together, your resume and your application together, is rooted in fear. If you were not afraid, you would be able to put those things together and apply and take the risk. So if you don't clear out those fears, those limitations within yourself to have the things you want, it would be very difficult to get them. It'll be very, very difficult to get them. Some, like, there's occasional things that are just like destined to happen, but for the most part, we have to exchange energy. Everything's an energy exchange. This is why you pay money for things. Like, before, we used to trade, like, oh, I grow squash and you grow watermelons. Like, let's trade, you know? But now we have money, which is like the universal exchange currency, exchange. So money is the way you exchange energy. Or, for example, like, if you're building your business, the effort, the energy, the time you put is your exchange for success in the business. That's your energy exchange. So we have to exchange energy for anything. We have to exchange energy for abundance, but you also exchange energy for scarcity. You just don't realize that you're doing it because it's become, one, it's probably most of the people around you operate that way, so it seems normal. And then the other thing is that your filter in your brain is operating that way. It's the way you've always been. It's the way your parents were. It's the way your friends are. It's the way your community is. It's the way society tells you should be. It's the way the memes on Instagram are. It's the jokes and the sitcoms you watch. So it seems normal. But this norm isn't helping you. It isn't serving you. Like the fear, the procrastination, the laziness, the avoidance, the running, the hiding, the numbing, all of those things seem normal because, like, the partying, like the over drinking, like the spending all of your weekends out at the bar, when you really have this secret dream that you don't pursue, that's also that same fear-based behavior. It's that procrastination, we're putting it off, or procrastinating growing up, procrastinating evolving into this mature version of yourself. Like, we're afraid of what's on that other side. We're afraid of becoming this next version of ourselves because we don't know what that is. And so the fear needs to be addressed. That's your first step. If there's anything that you are procrastinating on, if there's anything you're putting aside, if there's anything that you desperately want at the core of your being, like, even if it's losing weight, even if it's spending more time with your kids, even if it's gardening, even if it's whatever, if there's this like Charles Bukowski's, his poem, like, if there's this bluebird in your heart that's singing and you can't let it out because you're afraid, like, that's your first step, is addressing the fear. And we all have those fears. We've all been given those fears. We all have experiences from when we're growing up. We all do, all of us, in different ways. My experiences that injected fear into me may not mean the same thing to you, but that's what they did for me. And the same thing for you. Like, the experiences that injected fear to you might be like, oh, that doesn't make sense to me, but that's what your experience was. The end result was the same. We all were implanted with seeds of fear that have grown into weeds that have overtaken our garden, our inner landscape, so to speak. So this is actually what I just did in my women's meditation this week. This is my community meditation, is I had them pull the weeds out of their inner garden. And so if we don't address the fear, the law of attraction is right in the sense of you pull in matching frequencies. You pull in like frequencies. So even if you want your dream job, even if you're like, okay, I can have my dream job, I can have my dream job, I can have my dream job. If your belief, your internal belief is that you are unworthy, that you don't think you can do it, that you don't think your work is valuable enough, that you're not qualified enough, that you're not capable enough, if those are the weeds that are really growing in your internal garden, that's what you're manifesting. That's the energy that you're actually radiating out. It's what you believe. It's not necessarily your conscious thoughts. It's your subconscious thoughts. It's your subconscious beliefs. It's those subconscious beliefs that make you act in ways that you're like, oh God, I wish I wasn't doing this. Like, why can't I stop doing whatever? Like, why can't I stop eating Nutella every other day, which was me? Why can't I stop procrastinating on my schoolwork? Why can't I stop, watching Netflix all night and YouTube? And like, why can't I stop doing whatever? So why you can't stop is those seeds of fear that were implanted, and shame. But fear is the umbrella blanket, because shame, guilt, unworthiness, anger, all of those things are really under fear. They're really, the root of it is fear. Like, shame is the belief, that is the fear that I am unworthy, I am wrong, I am not correct, there's something wrong with me. And then guilt is like the fear of like I do bad things, like I do something wrong, like my actions are incorrect. So, and anger is like usually stems from fear, like especially for men and a lot of women, and especially in like Western culture. um Anger is a much more acceptable emotion than fear. So usually, like, why do parents get angry when they can't find their kids in the grocery store for 5 minutes? It's because they were afraid they lost them. Why do you get angry when your dog runs across the street without a leash? Because you were afraid that they would get hit by a car. And so anger is really just a cover for fear, but anger is a much more acceptable emotion, and many of us have been trained to express through anger. That was more accepted. We got better attention for that. We were more validated or acknowledged for expressing anger than expressing fear. So fear, just when you hear fear, think about all of those like darker spectrum emotions, because that's what that is. So basically, like, until you pull out the weeds of these fear that is within you, that's what you're manifesting. You're growing more of that. And so that was, I just really wanted to focus on that because a friend brought that to my attention, and she made a good point. That's why she's like, I just don't like the manifesting, the abundance, scarcity people, because they never talk about fear and they never talk about trauma and how that's related to it, and why it seems so elusive for some people. Like, why can't I just have this? And you have all of these blocks of trauma and fear between you, and that's why. And so it's not that you're incapable, it's not that you're doing it wrong, it's not that you're unworthy. What it is that you have all of this, like for the garden example, just because it's what I'm using today, you have this beautiful garden, and like, let's say you're trying to grow food, you're trying to grow fruits and vegetables in this garden. But when you were 5, when you were 8, when you were 2, when you were 13, when you were whatever, you had experiences that planted seeds of fear, shame, guilt, anger, unworthiness, shyness, all of that stuff, self-doubt, those things. You had these seeds planted within you, and then the seeds were planted in your garden. These things became part of your awareness of yourself. And as you continued to experience life, other experiences would confirm or water those seeds. So you'd have other experiences and your thought would be like, see, I am unworthy. See, I am so stupid. Oh my God, see, I am so shameful. Like, I'm such a piece of shit, like whatever. And so as you went through time, as you went through life, as you went through more and more experiences that watered these weeds of fear, they grew. And they grew out of control to the point where when you look at your garden, when you look at yourself, when you think about your identity, all you can see are these weeds. And that's all that you can see. And you can't see that there's fertile ground below, and it'll grow whatever you plant in it. And so the problem is that seeds of fear were planted in you at a young age and continually planted and watered over time through our own perception and through the people around us. So it's like, it's not just people telling you that you're stupid or that you're unworthy or that you're whatever. It's that you believe it. It's that you tell yourself you're those things. It's that you accepted it, internalized it, and you also continued to self-water. You continued to self-grow. And so it's not that you can't manifest abundance. It's not that the law of attraction doesn't work. It works 100%. It works so well that you just keep pulling in experiences that reconfirm these weed beliefs, these fear beliefs, this weeded garden that you have. So, so the fear needs to be addressed. So that you don't need, you can do it on your own. It's just remember that it's, like I said, it's a weed. It's your fears, your weeds of fear are so overgrown that to you, that's what's normal. And so to be able to identify what doesn't serve you, what doesn't belong to you, to be able to identify like, oh, this is a weed and this is a rose, like to be able to know the difference. It's very helpful to have somebody to guide you, to confirm. You just need somebody with a different mindset, a different frame of mind, to be able to be like, oh yeah, no, it's not normal to have weeds there. Like, you don't need that. And people are like, what? I don't need these weeds here? Like, I don't have to have these? And you're like, no, I don't have weeds there. Like, I took mine out years ago. And then you're like, oh, I can do that. I have the freedom. So that's pretty much what it is. It's very helpful. You need like supportive people to help you reframe your mind, because your mind is the way it is. If you could do it on your own, if you had the tools already, you would have done it. It's like working out. It's like learning anything. It's like learning jujitsu. It's like learning how to sing. It's like learning guitar. It's like learning how to draw better, or whatever. It's like learning anything. If you knew how to be an expert at it, if you knew how to get better at it, you already would. So that's where a guide comes in very, very helpful. I highly recommend having somebody to help you through that. So anyway, so that's the blocks to fear. That's what will keep you from being able to operate in an abundance mindset, into abundance flow. And yeah, so just think about the weeds that are in your garden. And so this is the next part of this, and what I want to get into eventually is, let's say your garden is overgrown with these fear weeds, these weeds rooted from fear. And you can pull those weeds out. You can weed your garden, and now you have all this clean, fresh soil. And so what needs to happen is you have to choose what you grow. You have to be very intentional about what you plant into your garden. And by your garden, I mean your mind. I mean your identity, the way you see yourself, your beliefs about yourself, your internal landscape. And so if you don't know what is important to you, if you don't know your core values, you won't know what to replace those weeds with. And then with this open, fertile ground, you're basically fertile for any ideas that get planted within you. And so this is why you have to know yourself. And through the unweeding process, you do come to know yourself. So that happens kind of incidentally. It's twofold. It's one and do one, the other kind of happens. It's like a happy consequence, but it's a byproduct, I guess. So if you can't identify your values, like for example, the value that we're all given is that monetary success is the ultimate, or like the only means of success, or being married is like symbolizes that you're wanted, that you're worthy. And so these are all made up. First of all, like, if you don't know that, if you don't realize that these things are made up, do a little bit of thinking, do a little bit of like self-exploration, look at different cultures, look at history, look at, anything outside of like this snapshot of this moment of time. These things are made up. It's made up by our culture. Your beliefs, the way you dress, the way you think about yourself, the way you think about the world is all influenced by your culture. And that was made up. It was basically like a joint effort, a mutually woven tapestry that we're all part of. So the idea of like material success being the ultimate like standard of success is made up. Having 6 cars and a giant mansion and all of this stuff, those are made up things. And they don't actually bring happiness. Like the way these things are marketed is to the way they're marketed and the way they're construed in the media, or like when I was growing up, like MTV Cribs and like that kind of stuff in shows, and like attaching them to celebrities and like making celebrity lifestyles look so amazing. The reason they do that is to sell you on the value. They're trying to attach a value that you want to this external thing, when in reality the value is, well, there's a lot of values, but like for material success, for like the mansions and the cars, let's just do that, like material everything stuff shit. The value they're selling you on is comfort, security, for sure. The idea that if you have more wealth, you have more financial security. Not always true. There's plenty of musicians and artists that didn't realize they had to pay taxes and are now like a couple $1,000,000 in debt and like that kind of stuff. So just because someone is pulling in a whole bunch of money doesn't mean they actually have wealth or that they feel secure. They feel financially secure. I know a lot of people actually that from the outside would look very wealthy, and on the inside they are losing their shit. So yeah, so that's the perception. They're trying to sell you on the idea that there's financial security there when that's an illusion. People that are middle class or, you know, that choose to build their own home or whatever, there's other decisions that people have made that have actually created material comfort and security. We just haven't been taught to see it as that. The other one is like fun. Like we're happy because we have so much money. Like how happy I am with all my stuff. Like that's so great. I can drive 6 cars at one time and I can wear 12 different pairs of shoes at once, even though I only have 2 feet. It's crazy. So you're also sold on the fact that having stuff makes you happy. And anybody that has had a lot of stuff and no real people to spend their time with knows it's not true. As soon as you have a lot of stuff and you haven't done any work to really build your interpersonal relationships or your connections or to be a healthy partner or a healthy friend or a healthy anything, you realize that this stuff doesn't mean what it is. And so, especially if you have a lot of stuff that doesn't really have an inherent value to you, you don't get a lot of use out of it. It's using you. Like the stuff is now a weight. It's not so much a status marker as much as it's like a weight and an energy drain on your life because you don't use it. It doesn't have value. It doesn't bring you joy. If you look at something in your home and it gives you a negative feeling, if it makes you feel like, why do I have this? Or like, this reminds me of this time in my life and that's just gone. If you have like a material object that brings you some sense of discomfort, it brings you an emotional, like a negative emotion, that doesn't serve you anymore. Like that's not good. It's not a positive presence in your life. And so anyways, I could go on and on how this is all an illusion, but basically if you don't know what your core values are, if you don't realize that by wanting material wealth and wanting status and for other people to like you, you don't realize that the value you're missing is like a real healthy connections. Your value is quality people in your life, and you don't realize that that's the value that's missing. You've just been taught to see that like, if I have a lot of money, people will like me, and then I'll be liked and I'll be popular. Not that, if I honor myself and I honor other people and I set good boundaries and I like myself and I have qualities that I like, that I'll find people that I have healthy, strong connections with. I'll find quality people in my life and they'll like me because I like me, because I'm a good person. That kind of stuff. So if you don't know your values, you won't know what to replace those weeds with. So if you have weeds that people don't like me, I'm not likable, I'm afraid that people just don't like being around me, and you're trying to basically like mitigate that with stuff, the real value that's missing is like, I don't like myself. And so how could I believe that anybody could like me if I don't like myself? And so what you need to do is pull all those fucking weeds and illuminate them and shine a light on all the shadows that are hiding what you don't like about yourself. Like if you don't like the fact that you don't take care of your body, but you continue to eat shit food, or if you don't like the fact that you're passive aggressive with your friends, or if you don't like the fact that you make sexist and racist jokes with your buddies, even though that's not how you truly feel, like if you don't like those things about yourself, those are the things that need to be addressed. And then as you come to like yourself, as you plant the seeds of like, okay, these are the values which make me like myself, these are the values which make me feel good, which honor me as a person, as a human being, you will energetically manifest, you will law of attraction, you will pull in like-minded people, like-minded experiences, you will pull in a life that reconfirms those beliefs and waters those plants. So that's why it's really important to decide what your values are. Is your value honesty? Is your value honoring yourself? Is your value loyalty? Is your value self-love? Is it healing? Is it generosity? Like, what are your values? What's important to you as a human being? What's important to you as a person? Because it's not what the ideas that were given to you by society, because obviously we're seeing that shit doesn't work. You don't feel better. You don't feel better with 1 million Instagram followers. You don't feel better with 6 cars. You don't feel better drinking all fucking weekend. Like, you don't feel better with the tools, the means that have been given to you by society. So that's just not working. So just acknowledge it. Admit the shit that isn't working so you can fix it. Just take, just like, okay, it's not working. It's like, it's been a year, it's been 6 years, it's been 10 years, it's been 20 years, it's been whatever. It's been a lot of time of your life that you kept trying the same way over and over and over and over and over again, and it didn't work. And so illuminate those weeds. Look at those weeds that are planted in your garden that are rooted in fear, that are rooted in scarcity, that are rooted in not enoughness. Look at those weeds and start pulling them out. Start challenging them. Start testing them. Like, is this actually true? Like, where did this belief come from? When was this weed planted? When was this seed planted in me? When was the first time I remember feeling like this? And then when did I feel this reconfirmed? What is the thread, basically? Like, all of the experiences, what are all the times that this was watered and allowed this weed to grow the way it did? And then when you're ready to put it down, because it's going to take time, because you have your whole garden is made up of these weeds, and these roots are deep, and like your whole garden, the way you see your garden, the way you see yourself, your identity is wrapped up in these weeds and these beliefs and these negative beliefs or limiting beliefs, or these fears. So it's going to take time to illuminate them, to acknowledge them, to challenge them. And then when you're ready, rip those fuckers out. You pull those weeds out at the root, and then replace it with a value that means something to you, a value that honors you, that makes you that good person, that goodness, that fills you with that light that you know you are. And so that's everything. So abundance actions are important, but without acknowledging the fear and the weeds of fear that have been planted in us, it's going to be very difficult to be in an abundance mindset or to take abundance actions or do anything. And so while we're in this slowdown period, what a beautiful time to really look at that, to really illuminate those parts of yourself, because things will pick back up at some point. Like, it's not going to be right now, it's not going to be tomorrow, it's not going to be in 2 days, but it will happen. Like, we will, like, the world will go back to spinning more quickly at some point. So now is the time. Like, the chips are up in the air. If you would like to build a life, if you would like to have a garden, if you would like to feel about yourself, to think about yourself in this way, in like a better way, in a different way, in a healthy way, if you would actually like yourself and you don't right now, what a beautiful time to take out all the weeds that don't mesh with that are like blocking you from planting the things you do like about yourself. So that's up to you. If you need help, my name is Caroline. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. I'm new to YouTube, as you can tell. But yeah, my name is Caroline. I'm an intuitive. I do this work full time. I've been doing it for a long time. If you have questions, let me know. I love responding. I love answering. I love giving you confirmation and hearing what's going on with you. So thank you so much. And I will be back soon with you.